Hello, everyone. Good evening, and welcome to those of you that are watching us on YouTube. My name is Joseph Martin, and this is the Queer Edition 2, our second of the Sunday sessions from the National Youth Theatre, promoting the original LGBTQ+ members' work from the National Youth Theatre. Tonight, you're going to see 9 performances from different members of NYT, some of whom have written them, some of whom will be performing them. We're in for a really varied and exciting, entertaining evening. That will take up the first hour or so of our stream tonight, those 9 performances. And then we're going to be joined by the brilliant actors, writers, creatives, Mark Gatiss and Nathaniel Curtis, who are going to be chatting queer theatre, representation, and their top tips for young creatives. For those of you watching on YouTube, we'd love for you to get involved in the chat. Please say hello where you're watching from and give all our young performers all the support in the world as they show their original work to you tonight. Now, before we dive into the performers this evening, I just wanted to pay tribute, if you like, to the first Queer Edition that we had back in December. If it wasn't for the brilliant work of those performers, we wouldn't be having our second edition tonight. So we can enjoy this couple of minute long highlight reel that we've set up for you so you can get a sense of the previous performers. Enjoy. We'll see you in a few minutes. Hello, Joseph again. We appear to we appear to have lost some sound. We might have just got some.
Hey, so I was just about to call you. It took me all weekend, but I finally figured it out. Not who killed Avril Lavigne, although we do need to figure that out. No, what I figured out is how to get top surgery. Cancer! It's genius! You know what I mean? Because just think about it. The wait time on the NHS, best case scenario for top surgery is 2 years. Breast cancer for the same surgery, 2 weeks. It's just maths. I mean, isn't it insane that the difference is 102 weeks?
I know girls who are trying to fit into the social norm like squeezing in last year's prom dress. I know girls who are low-rise, MAC eyeshadow, and binge drinking. I know girls that wonder if they're disaster and sexy enough to fit in. I know girls who are fleeing bombs from the mosques of their skin, playing Russian roulette with death. It's never easy to accept that our bodies are fallible and flawed. But when do we draw the line? When the knife hits the skin, isn't it the same thing as purging because we're so obsessed with death? Some women just have more guts than others.
We'll buy a house with a dungeon and lock up our fears. We'll spread ourselves across the carpet and toast to hardwood floors. We'll go to Cineworld and you'll tell me your dreams. You'll speak of mystical lands, eating boys, and soap.
So first, our gays are yays. Who here identifies as a gay man? Wonderful, wonderful. Most of you are in our fashion department. I invite all of you, but especially our yays, to peruse our brand new Pride clothing line.
So his dad is a priest. The priest, I guess, is the terminology, or is it just well, I guess it's like if you're the place where the priest is the priest of so he's the priest, right? He's the priest of this province, of this church, of this village. I'm not really sure, but it just had sex with his son. The church we're in right now. His church or the church? Jesus Christ. Sorry.
You're more than friendly and easygoing, Sophia. You're you're charismatic. The definition of charisma: inspires devotion in others. I mean, I've centered my whole career around trying to understand you. I mean, I'm obsessed with you. I'm devoted to you. I mean, I don't know where the fuck I'm taking psychology. It's only really interesting when I get to analyze you. So I mean, I guess that I'm in love with you. I think that I love you.
To the starlit girl who lines her windowsill with denim and stares upward to a balcony of doves and scientists, each with feathers somewhere in the world, the same they used to write their own thesis. His covered head changed nothing. His tongue would curl up and sleep under the moon, his only forest.
Fantastic. Sorry about the few sound issues we had at the start there. You'll be pleased to know that the whole of the first Queer Edition can be watched again on demand on the National Youth Theatre YouTube channel, which you're already on, given that you're watching on YouTube. The two performers you couldn't quite hear at the start were Izzy Coward doing her piece You Don't Look Gay, and Phoebe Constantine doing her piece A Feeling. I do recommend that you have the time, if you have the time, to go back and watch all of those performances in their entirety. Hopefully we've got those sound issues sorted now. Thank you so much to all of you that are getting involved in the chat already as well. Hello to those of you watching Howard in Nashville, Tennessee. We also have Craig in New Hyde Park, New York. We've got someone from Chile as well. Incredible. I'm so thrilled that we've got such a worldwide appeal. Hello to Matt Gavin watching as well, Zed Murphy, Tanya Murphy. I'm thrilled that you're all here. Do please keep those interactions in the chat coming in. We're going to get started with our first performer of the evening, or should I say performers. NYT member Georgie Basie is going to be joined by Leonie Barnes-Wake and Lydia Webb for a piece called Mortha. Enjoy.
Okay, just checking that and send.
Done. Has the confirmation come up?
Yeah, I can see Pervy Phil's picture in the corner.
Ugh, Pervy Phil. He's ever perved on me? Not yet, anyway.
Anyway, so that's it. It's done. Oh, I feel a bit
What?
deflated, I guess.
About the project, or?
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong, it was a lot of work, but I mean, we should still do this, don't you think?
What? Zoom? Yeah, I'd like that.
Good. It's my favourite part of the week. So
I thought seeing Louisa was your favourite part of the week.
oh well, that was my favourite part of the week. We broke up.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's fine, you know. Well, I mean, it's just one of those things, you know. She was pretty and clever and really good in bed, actually.
Right.
Oh, Christ, really good in bed.
Okay.
And she once did this thing where she like flipped me over and then we actually talked.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, you don't need to. Well, what I was wanting to say is I've been thinking about this dating thing and I thought, just give it a try, especially after last time. I mean, that was a disaster. So.
Oh my God, that story with the squirrel. Oh my God, I went home and told all my housemates about it.
What I was getting to is I've been thinking that, well, maybe potentially possibly.
Wait, one sec. Hang on. Wait, are you here for Gaz's birthday?
I don't know who that is. Gaz?
What? Yeah. Wait. Oh, hang on. I must have pressed the wrong link. I must have pressed the
No,
wrong
you
link.
probably did.
Hang
Don't
on, sorry.
No, I can kick you out. It's fine.
Whoa, no, don't kick me out. This is, do you at least like my costume and the lights and...
It's amazing. But I was in the middle of something here, so if
No,
you
yeah, well, I've got to go to Gaz's birthday, but, we should hang out or something. This is great. This is like a once in a lifetime opportunity.
not
This
quite
never
the right
happens.
time. So maybe another, we might bump
Come on.
into-
I'll add you on, what, have you got Snap? Or I'll add you on Snapchat, Instagram. You've got Instagram.
Don't have that either.
You don't have Snapchat. Come on. Everyone's got Snapchat. Come on.
Well, I don't.
Come on, we
so
can do this.
fine.
It's great.
I just don't want to add you on Snapchat, okay? I want to ask this girl out. Will you go out with me?
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Welcome back, Georgie, Leonie and Lydia. Excellent work, ladies. Fantastic. Well done. Thank you so much for opening the show tonight. Georgie, we'll come to you first. The piece is called Mawther, M-A-W-T-H-E-R. Tell me what that means. I'm not familiar with that word.
So all three of us are actually from Norfolk. So we wanted to make a piece that incorporated Norfolk queer women, and we made a piece about all of that. So we wanted a name that sort of went along with that as well. So Mawther actually does mean young woman in sort of Norfolk dialects, like really old Norfolk dialect. So we thought that would be the perfect name.
Love it. It seems perfect to me. And is this from a wider piece, or is it standalone for the time being? What's the plan?
I'll let Leonie take that one.
It's from a larger piece we performed for Norwich Fringe, and we wrote it together. It was more like from improvising and then just taking down what worked, so it just sort of came naturally. But yeah, we're planning on sort of taking it to different areas and applying it to the area we're in. So yeah, it's quite exciting.
Love that. That's brilliant. It's so nice to watch a piece that is that's written for Zoom. Over the last year, we've seen quite a lot of theatre obviously adapting to the digital mediums. And some of it works, some of it doesn't. And it's really enjoyable to watch one that so clearly has Zoom at the heart of it and really, really works. Now, Lydia, I'll come to you for the last question. You three have a theatre company, right? Tell me about it. What's it called? How long has it been going for? Where can we find you?
So it's Georgie who set up Blonde Boss Theatre, and well, actually, I think I should let Georgie take this one because she knows a lot more about it than me. I don't want to say anything wrong.
You're good. I set up Blonde Boss Theatre Company in 2018. Made some shows about a lot of historical things. But over the past year, I've sort of been getting to know my queer identity, and my queer journey has sort of really blossomed thanks to the conversations I've had with especially Lydia and Leonie. So that's why I wanted to make this piece, and we really want to educate especially people in Norfolk and Suffolk about the LGBTQ community, as especially where we live, it's quite remote, and a lot of people tend to be afraid to say the wrong thing. So that's always been something that I've been quite passionate about, is teaching people terminology and vocabulary so they can have those conversations and be comfortable in having those conversations and not worrying about offending anybody, because every day is a school day, and the more you know about things, the more we're all going to just grow into beautiful, lovely people. So, yeah.
Oh, what a sentiment to end on. Fabulous. Georgie, Leonie, Lydia, thank you so much for that first performance. Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll head on to our next performer now. We've got a couple more things in the chat as well. So Woo Up Norfolk, says Esme. So yes, Up Norfolk indeed. We will introduce Jasmine Armstrong as our next performer with her piece Be Proud.
Homosexual. How does that word make you feel? Because the stigma around that word is very fucking real. I've had to heal from the pain that I feel. As we sit around this table, I'm trying to eat my meal, so why is it that I feel like I'm in my mind, This heteronormativity making everyone blind. You see it on the telly, in the paper, in the movies. Where's the representation for the rest of mankind? Humanity is improving, but we are far from perfect. Using gay in a negative way is something I can't respect. It's mad people still use derogatory terms for burns. Calling me a rug muncher or a poof makes my stomach fucking churn. Do you know how many countries it's illegal for me to be me? Do you know how many countries I'd receive the death penalty? The first answer is 70, and the second answer is 12. And if you didn't know those facts, you can take a book off your shelf. Why should I have to live with fear in my life? Scared to hold hands in public in case I'm stabbed with a knife. Hate crimes are very real. I don't get the fucking deal. I love who I love, and that shouldn't be concealed. So really, look me in my face and tell me I'm wrong. Because all this time I've been searching just for a place to belong. Through my art, I pour my heart in the hope that people listen. A better future of acceptance is where I focus my vision. Listen, I am proud of my sexuality, and nobody can tell me different.
Incredible. It's so powerful. I think when I was going through the submissions for this version of the Queer Edition, Jasmine, it reads so powerfully, but to hear the rhythm and the power of your delivery just brings this whole other level to it. So thank you so much for doing it. Incredible. Tell us about it. So it covers a lot of really, really important aspects of being LGBTQ+. Yeah. When did you start writing this? What was it born out of for you?
Well, actually, so I'm very new to spoken word, and I've only written one piece before this. I knew that I wanted to write something about the queer community, but I was always scared to, because that is quite a scary thing, to put such raw emotion out there. It's like, oh, I don't know. And then I actually saw the email from NYT about the submissions for the Queer Edition, but I saw it about 4 or 5 days before the deadline. And I was like, oh my gosh, I think this is what is going to push me to actually do something. So then I just like really quickly tried to write it, and honestly, even though there's a lot of important subjects in there, I could have gone on. I could have spoken about so many more things. So maybe it's something I continue, and release it out. But yeah. Yeah,
I think you should. You know, I think spoken word is a really accessible way to cover a lot of those kind of issues. And you know, you covered kind of homophobic language, which I think a lot of members of the community will have heard, especially growing up as a young person, being at school, that kind of stuff, bringing in the more serious aspects of where it's illegal and the death penalty. You know, so thank you for covering it. You covered it fantastically. You could have fooled me that this was only your second spoken word piece. I want you to go away, create a full short film length of this and film it and bring it back so we can show it for another Queer Edition.
Absolutely.
Yes, love that. Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Oh, amazing. We will continue on a bit of a roll here. We're getting some really, really nice comments in. Zeb says, really powerful performance from Jasmine, which it really, really was. We'll go to our next performer, Ned Blackburn, who's going to be doing his original piece called The Maimed Man. Ned.
The maimed man on the floor. Not today. No, today is not his day. Today, tossed from his bed, flung from his door, not safe, not free. Instead, he must flee. Flee the nest like a burning building, gripping his fiery Louboutins, clutching his filth, his smut, his sin, drowning life raft. But wait. But what? But wait, but where does he go from now? Run and run and run and run and run, tripping, slipping, kicking his heels, dreaming to be somewhere over the rainbow, behind the moon, or beyond the clouds. His back breaks with the ache of penury. His eyes singe with the sky's reflection. He stares and points and giggles and bullies and laughs, hysterical with disbelief, dopey with despair, stripped of his dignity. And then his wallet, his watch, his jacket, his trousers, his pants, his eyebrows, sockets, lids, and lashes, the life of his legs and the laugh of his lungs take into air his quiet breath. Away they bound, bellowing with bigotry. Their calls cried out across the smog city, a flare sent for those wearing flares. Eye to smoky eye they came with the maimed man, painted for hell, cinched for damnation, their finest frockery cutting through the mockery. Compassioned by the sight, they brought him to standing, lifting him from labouring suppression. They let him cry, and cry, and cry, and cry, and cry, and cry.
Ooh, what a journey. Well done. So, Ned, I saw you make a short film version of this piece back in January, was that?
Yes,
on your
yes.
Instagram, which is stunning, by the way, I think.
Thank you.
What is your Instagram, Ned? Where can people find you?
I think it's just my name, Ned Blackburn.
Okay, I recommend people go on Ned's Instagram and watch the short film version of it as well. It's really beautiful. And so obviously references in there to, you know, real moments of queer history and past and films, etc. So tell us where the inspiration for the piece came from.
Well, I was given an assignment to, I think, to write a spoken word piece, and it's supposed to be inspired by a picture. And it was this painting of, I think it was supposed to be the Good Samaritan. It was like a religious photo. So I flipped that script and did it about, because I think it was just this man being lifted and carried by, I think, these monks. And there were lots of like little gremlins in the corner and around, and it just kind of made me think of drag queens, but more just about like chosen family and just embracing people who very clearly need help, but they might look a bit sort of, I just know, different to what you're normally used to seeing, and people who gravitate towards that kind of thing.
Absolutely. It's such a, I really love the piece, so I'm really glad you submitted it. Thank you. We have a YouTube comment from Aaron Ryder. It says, incredible, Ned. We've got a little Zoom chat of our performers tonight. A lot of really positive stuff coming in. Those are like the alliteration is beautiful, the poetry is really good. So please write more. As I said to Jasmine, come back, do more things. Thank you for doing it. Cheers, Ned.
Thank you so much, Joe.
Thanks. Straight on to our next performer. Don't forget, in just over 25 minutes, we'll be joined by Mark Gatiss and Nathaniel Curtis to chat about queer theatre representation and a couple of their different projects. But for now, we will go on to our next performer, Law Wilson, with her piece, Milkshake.
So I guess this is it then. I know this is always the weirdest part. In some ways, I don't want to let you go. In other ways, I know our future was an impossible reality. But if the multiverse theory is real, then somewhere, somehow, we stay together no matter how against the laws of physics it seems. There could be a smaller universe somewhere with dim red sunsets and blue lights that make your face look like the moon. There, the planets powered by neon. Nostalgia creeps through the dusk and the world's a little cooler. You're a little warmer. I'm a little better adjusted. In this small universe, we stop by the cinema all the time. We don't know why we love that, but we do. Milkshakes stay slushy until the end here. My hands are warmer than yours. In this universe, you remember your scarf. I borrow it and I never forget how you smell. Where there are hard conversations, we hold hands, and a part of me would know that this could be the only realm of existence where we are together, and that every other place it would be a dream, or dust left over from a universe that no longer exists.
Oh, there we are. I couldn't get my video to turn on. Laura, thank you so much for that. Really poetic imagery in this, kind of otherworldly. Tell us about your writing process for it and how it came about.
Okay, so yeah, I started. Milkshake actually is a film that is also not yet finished. I started it in my second year of uni, and it was a completely different thing then. And it actually also stars another NYT alum, Makede Amoroso, who some of you might know. And as time went on, and then we sort of had to stop. Like we only did like 2 days of production, and then we had to stop. And then months later, we were like, oh, I could do something else. And then, yeah, and then just the ideas just had to change to allow for different logistical issues. But what ended up happening is that we had so much more that I thought I could do. So I ended up starting to write the play as a theatre and get all the poetry in that and leave the cinematography to the film. So yeah, but it's about queer coming of age and how sometimes that happens a little later for us or in different ways.
Okay. I think it's really nice that you have been able to look at your own work and sort of be able to separate different mediums and say it's not quite working for this, or it will be something different for film, but as a play script it can be, you know, I think it's quite difficult sometimes when you're creating your own work. We get quite set in like an idea of this is what it's going to be, and it's going to be for film, it's going to be for theatre, whatever. But the poetry works fantastic. Just with you sitting and reading it like this, you give such powerful imagery. So to be able to see it in any other medium would be really exciting. We've had some really nice comments on it as well. Tanya says, I love the image of the alternate universe. Bronwyn says, amazing. Lots of claps in the chat as well. So Laura, I can't wait to see more of it. Thank you so much for giving it to us tonight. No
worries. Thank you again as well.
Thanks. Brill. Straight on to our next performer. We'll keep the incredible work going. We're next going to meet Romy Iris Conroy for her beautiful poem, How to Fall in Love.
Hello. I just want to preface this by saying that my voice is a bit croaky because I've lost my voice in the past 2 days. So I might sound a little bit like a little frog. But if you can't understand me, then I have a video on my Instagram as well. Here goes. I am born of the ocean. Call me Aphrodite's sister. Bow down to me in devotion like the full moon pulls the tides. Let's bask in her glister. Kneel and dine in my Garden of Eden. Lay bare with me in the grass. Let me slither and savor the taste of your tongue. Let me be the breath in your lungs when you forget to breathe out. Be my rose quartz. I am the Letha solstice. Sacrifice me to the gods. Adorn me in a bed of lavender and mugwort, and I will be your midsummer night's dream. Liberate me from the confines of earth. Let's travel the universe. Thanks.
I mean, you didn't sound like a frog at all. Well done for someone who lost their voice 2 days ago. That was brilliant. I was just about to say it, but we've had it in the chat as well. The Shakespeare reference, fantastic. So thank you so much for it. Tell us about it. How did you write it? Where did it come from? How long has it been in existence?
Yeah, it's fairly new actually. I wrote it a few weeks ago during a session with a collective, a poetry collective that I'm part of called Riot. Yeah, I just kind of have been a bit on a low for the past 2 years. I lost my best friend to suicide. So this kind of poem was about like finding and falling in love with love again. So yeah.
Well, I mean, thank you for sharing that with us as well. Like when something has such like a deep personal connection, that's really important. And I think, do you often find that like writing is a form of catharsis for you?
Yeah, definitely. I started to write just as therapy, and then I realized, oh, it's not quite bad, so I might start sharing it, and that's kind of how I got into it.
Well, I'm thrilled that you did. It was really, and the chat's really gone all out on this as well. We've got incredible, we've got hearts, wow, beautiful, beautiful, Romy, beautiful, brilliant, loving this. So thank you so much for for performing that for us. I really appreciate it. Thank you for submitting it. Right, we go on to our next performers. So the performer that you're about to see isn't a member of NYT. It's Chloe Chapper, the writer who we'll meet afterwards is called Cora Frank, who is an NYT member. And we're going to be seeing Cora's piece, Problems as a Pan de.
I never know when people are flirting with me. I can never really tell. Did she just jump from the "we're just friends" track to the "actually, I think I like you" track? Or has she always been on the "I just want to have sex with you" track? It's the hardest thing to identify whether a person is flirting with you or if we're just having a quote unquote normal conversation. One time, my best friend brought me as their +1 to a birthday party. So I thought maybe that could imply that there can eventually be more. I'm not saying that I instantly thought of having sex afterwards. I just saw the percentage rise that we could switch from the "we're just friends" track to the "actually, I think I like you" track. Anyways, this party was without a doubt the worst ever. And that was not because we didn't have sex at the end. Well, on the way there, she told me that she was just bringing me for fun. She told me that she identifies as bisexual before, but she hadn't come out to anyone else at the time. By bringing me in and asking me to act like we're a couple, not only broke my heart, but also questioned my skills to identify when people are trying to flirt with me. I don't really enjoy parties. I did before I came out. But now I try to lift my mood by counting how many people ask me to join their couple sex. I mean, I'm not totally against the idea of having multiple people involved. I'm just always the person who gets approached at the bar by a guy who's starting to flirt with her. And the second she's attempting to flirt back, he pulls his girlfriend out of the crowd and goes, "You're bisexual, right? Want to have some fun with me and my girlfriend?" Well, first of all, I would like to correct him and say "my girlfriend and I." And then I would like to say, did you know that fetishizing bisexuality is a form of bisexual erasure and therefore a biphobic statement? But mostly I answer by starting a very long ramble with, "I'm actually pan. Duh." Followed by an awkward laugh. And then moving on to teaching him a lesson about stereotypes on people who can be attracted to more than one gender. Normally the couple leaves when I get to the part of my brain where I store statistics and numbers, like comparing the 61% of bisexual women who experience a form of sexual abuse to the 35% of heterosexual women. I never had a threesome at a party. I mean, would you say yes to a person who's randomly coming up to you and asking you for sex? If you do, hello to all of these sexually transmitted diseases and illnesses and the weirdest sex of your life. If I fire back with "how recently was your last HIV test?" they normally look at me saying, "I thought bisexuals were horny all the time." Well, let me get one thing straight, and surprise, that's not me. That's just not me. Bisexuals are not horny all the time. We can be horny though, if we decide to see the world through our horny glasses, but we have to put them on first, obviously. I mean, of course not. Attraction works the same way no matter how you label your sexuality. The only difference is that I can be attracted to more than one gender. That's not because I'm greedy or because I can't choose. It's simply because that's the way I am, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Incredible performance, Chloe. Thank you so much. And if we say hello to Cora as well. Hello. This piece sounds like it comes from a very, very real place. Tell us about it.
Yes, it does. Sadly. Yeah, I mean, I've always struggled. Well, when I came out, sometimes people fetishize sexuality, and I really hate that. And when I started to open up a dialogue about that, female identifying friends told the same story, and I was like, wow, this is really a thing. And then when I was talking to male identifying or non-binary friends, they were like, hey, people just are like, hey, wait, you're bisexual or pansexual, polysexual, that's not a thing. You're either gay or straight. There's nothing in between. And I think we definitely need to open up the dialogue about everything is a spectrum, gender and sexuality, and that biphobia can be so much more than just insulting a person. So, yeah.
Absolutely. And, in many ways, we're living in, an incredible time for people realizing that there is much more of a spectrum to things, and gender identity, sexuality becoming so much more broad than it has been. But it goes to show that, some things take a lot longer to change than others. Is this part of a wider piece for you, or are they sort of 3 standalone speeches you put together? How did it come about?
I put it together, and for me it's a standalone piece, but I love to integrate some or just to flip the reality. I recently wrote a play about where only gay characters are in it, and then they asked themselves, well, what is it to be straight, just to turn it around. And I think it's very important to question our education and how we are raised with the biases we experience. So yeah,
absolutely. I look forward to seeing that piece. Really good. I mean, amazing. The chat lit up when you guys came on to do your piece. Lots of Chloe and Cora. Yes, Chloe and Cora. Brava to my daughters, Chloe and Cora. Stunning performance. You're amazing. Love that piece. Absolutely amazing. Tanya says, I learned a lot through that piece about labels and when using them as needed and when it is abusive. So the work that you're doing clearly works. Please keep doing it. Come back.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Cora. Cheers. Right, I've realised so far that we haven't really spoken too much about NYT, and obviously there are some people watching this who aren't members of the National Youth Theatre, and we'll be definitely talking about that more in depth. I'll ask the next couple of performers as well about their experiences with NYT, so don't worry, we'll cover that base as well. And it's about 20 minutes time that we'll be joined by Mark Gatiss and Nathaniel Curtis for our little panel discussion. Next, on to our next performer, Nell Baisley, who's going to be doing an as yet untitled piece.
If only I had an ego that lay low. Mine is attention seeking, she never stops speaking. I've heard of others whose souls lie under the covers. They wank in a mirror and don't feel bad about it. We have one each, they may see mine as a leech. Big tits, big teeth, all you can eat. A fidget that doesn't stick to a beat. Colourful clown reaching for the crown, wishing she was a drag queen. There are other identities laced with fragilities. Toxic masculinity has been a prick to me, as I'm sure it was to the man-child who started to go wild and stopped holding his dad's hand. Why don't we just let it go, curl up and find a home in ourselves that's warm and real without this artificial feel? Shed the layers that stop you teething, that stunt the growth of your being, and find out who you are when they're not around.
Oh, short but powerful. Really packed a punch. Thank you so much. Now, please tell us about the piece, where it came from, its background, and its connection meaning to you.
Thank you. Yes, so I started Escape Rule for the first time this month, which is a poetry/writing prompt challenge. You get a prompt every day. And I haven't done many of them because I work full time, but I did the first one, which was just the word ego. And this is what came from it, really. I think it's sort of an amalgamation of ways that people have identified me and the way that I identify myself, because some people perceive you as one thing when you're actually another, and refer to you as one thing. And I think I just sort of wanted to push that together. And as you said, it's untitled, so I am still, I might add to this piece, you never know. But what I wanted to get across was sort of, the quote by Bimini Bon Boulash is, "It's up to no one else how you self-identify." And I just live by that. So that's what I wanted to pin.
Don't we all? Release the beast of Miss Bimini Bombilash. Ah, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about MYT now. When did you do your course? Which course did you do? What was your experience for MYT so far?
Yes, so I did my junior course when I was 16 or 17. It was in 2019. So yeah, and it, not to sound, you know, cliche, but it did completely change my life. The way that you are sort of taught to express yourself and be proud of whatever you have, and use it, and being able to make connections with people all over the country from all different backgrounds was insane. Because I'm from Norfolk, rural Norfolk, and it can feel quite, you know, cut off from things. So yeah, it was brilliant, and I just wish I could do it again, really.
I feel you. Yes, every year of my membership, I'm like, oh God, I want to go back. But you know, doing things like this is where we still get to see and showcase your talent. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for doing it now.
Thank you.
Cheers. Seeing as we've talked a little bit about MYT, as I said, I know there's a few of you tonight who aren't members. So if you're between 14 to 25, you can join or audition to join the National Youth Theatre, and they have summer intake courses every year, split into different age groups. But new to this year, they've also released a hub, which you can join for, I think it's about £2 a month, and you get access to really, really useful resources for auditioning and mastering your acting craft. If you want to find out more, you can go to nyt.org.uk. It is a registered charity, so if you're perhaps not in the age range to join, but you do want to support the National Youth Theatre, you can do that as well. Head to the website and find out more info. I did my course back in 2018, and I'd been away from acting for a couple of years, and doing that really reset my brain a little bit and confirmed to me it's what I wanted to do, and I enjoyed doing it. And without them, we wouldn't be here doing it and watching it tonight. So please do get involved, whether that's joining as a member or considering supporting them. Next, we go on to our penultimate performance of the evening. I'm going to introduce you to Soso, who's going to be reading her piece on Sailor Moon, or A Portrait of Two Women in Love.
Thanks, Joseph. I'm just going to check. I'm not frozen. I am not. So this is a poem I wrote about the 90s anime cartoon Sailor Moon, for anybody that knows it. And it's called On Sailor Moon, or A Portrait of Two Women in Love. In bed, two crescents waning. What feels right, the girl asks, for those who have everything. The body that covers the bed. Coffee-stained sheets maintain the vigor of a childhood spent chanting Al Gore for president, despite watching Fox Kids after midnight. Only there could you find a hand-drawn heroine working to postpone the destruction of the universe in an ensemble of leading women, and catch a glimpse of unclothed form during the metamorphosis from human to divine. Blessed transformations of unending pink ribbons enveloping holographic silhouettes, and a girl who cries about missing her bed relaxes her strength to tread lightly on enemies. That's when I knew, she says. I wanted to be those ribbons. I wanted to kiss Sailor Moon. She remembers the shock of the television static when her hands pressed against the glass, and she, too young to understand, couldn't grasp her feelings. Now a lover, too lost in memories of a celestial guardian dreaming of cake, sleep in her eyes, and the long pause of Artemis scratching her thigh on rude awakening. Her friends, Haruka and Mitsuru, were lovers, and in an effort to avoid the controversy that could be caused by a lesbian character in a children's cartoon, the American Voices claim they were cousins. But I knew. I always knew. Her open palm, the lover's fingertips, the rose-hued sheets unraveled to wrap around once more and bind them both for sleep. On behalf of the moon, she whispers, the night renewed, with sweat unseen in the sun.
Stunning. work. So thank you so much. What a beautiful journey. That very, like, I think a lot of us as queer people have characters on TV and on film that are quite influential for us, or almost awakenings for us as we grow up. Now, I'm ashamed to say I know nothing about Sailor Moon. Please tell me a little bit more, and how much you watched it growing up. It obviously clearly had a real impact on you. When did you start to realize that, cousins, as they were described, wasn't really accurate?
It's actually a really funny thing about the cousins, but I'll start first with a bit of background. So Sailor Moon is an anime, and it was originally a manga. It was really exciting at the time. It was one of the first, it was like women were heroes, girls, schoolgirls, they were sailor soldiers. It was all so exciting. And then there was always this beautiful homoeroticism to it. There was all these transformation sequences where they were derobed from their what they were normally wearing into the sort of superhuman outfits of these characters that saved the world. And it was really funny because it was on Fox Kids, which then growing up I was and then you learn how queer phobic Fox News is, and then you're that's so funny. And I was thinking about it a lot, and I guess with the cousins as well, that was the big one, because it became an issue. It became this problem because they set it up worse. They lobbied for no lesbian characters, no gay representation, the parents associations. And basically what happened though was they didn't leave out the flirting, so it became incestuous. I think about that all the time. So I'm if you're gonna they really shot themselves in the foot, and they had to try and correct that a lot later, but it was very hard for them to do. But had they just left it, would have been fine.
Absolutely. God, that's incredible. What a backstory. I think this is the thing with, as queer people, and it is getting better as we go on, but in TV and film, especially when we look for people that we know and that we recognize as similar to us, and if they're not there, we'll find them ourselves anyway. And so the idea that people might be no, we're not having any sort of queer characters whatsoever, in one way it doesn't matter because we'll find them anyway, but in another, when the satisfaction and the feeling of home that we find when we see characters that we recognize as ourselves makes such a real difference, doesn't it? It's remarkable. And speaking of which, we have really, really lovely comments on the stream. Bronwyn says that was so beautiful. Matt says, I love this. Turning something idiosyncratic into a universal queer feeling. We all have that moment. Might not have been Sailor Moon, but I can still relate. Mine was Tidus from Final Fantasy X.
Yeah. I've heard that one before, actually. Yeah.
I'm trying to think who mine is. And the thing is that, when I look back on the amount of TV and films, and also music and artists that I listened to when I was a kid, looking back, it was almost definitely everyone. Do you know what I mean? Because I definitely had a crush on them. I definitely knew that. Yeah. It's just funny how these things change.
I was thinking even recently, I was queering Pokemon in my memory. I was no, but Pikachu and Charizard were in love. And
yes.
That just I was and you search for all these hidden Easter eggs, and it's it doesn't matter if they were hidden by anybody. They're ours.
Yeah, you take away what you want from it. Exactly. And I mean, while we're on the subject, Bulbasaur is the best Pokemon, and I'll have no further discussions on the matter. But I think that might cause some discourse, but there we are. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Joseph.
Really beautiful. Cheers. So we are heading on to our final performer of the evening before we move to our panel discussion. You're going to watch a short film that I asked our performance evening, Nay Murphy, to submit after he posted it on YouTube a little while ago. And it is called Identity.
My identity not only makes me me, but part of a community in which I find security, that warm feeling in my stomach, like curly whirlies and crunchies at my 5th birthday party after ballet, binge watching trans TikTok compilations on YouTube, STM timelines, anything I can find as I ponder over why I feel the need to bind when I can barely breathe. Or not make a rhyme that matches YouTube with boob. Even though that's the first thing that came to mind, because it'll make me have that little jitter, like when you realise a fruit's gone bitter but you're so far into the bite that you've got to swallow and the aftertaste is gonna lounge around in your mouth till tomorrow. Always questioning my surety, pondering over my purity. I could just be a fake, and someday I'll awake from some big metaphorical earthquake that'll tell me that all of this everyday thought, all of this trans shit that I bought, all of the battles that I've fought against myself, that has all been about something else. Like internalized misogyny or some kind of jealousy, because at the back of my mind I thought men were better because of my older brother. When in reality, I'm a big feminist activist wannabe, and my family find it extremely annoying, especially my dad, when I try to explain the concept of mansplaining, but he tells me that I'm wrong, and he just explains it back to me. I'm always looking for a final answer or a tick from some doctor for gender dysphoria, but I've got to stop waiting and procrastinating, accepting the fact that this is me. Trans is my identity.
Ooh. Brilliant. Nay, hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing all right. I've loved watching all the performances tonight. How are you?
I am great. Thank you so much. I mean, so this, we've known each other for a little while, and when you posted this piece, I knew that if we did another queer edition, that I would definitely want this shown. And it's, everything we've seen tonight is intensely and intrinsically personal to everyone that writes it, but this especially. So tell us briefly about your journey up until this point and what this film means.
Yeah, I kind of just wrote it one day. I just sort of had the idea, started writing, and got to the end of it. Then I left it for a while just on my computer in a Google Docs. And then it came up that I had to actually, for NYT R&D, I had to send a self-tape in, and I was like, oh, I could use part of this poem that I wrote. And so I made that into a little video, and I thought, actually, I can make the whole poem into a video. So I then just made it into a video, and I edited it together. And then I just left it again on my computer, just doing nothing. And I showed it to my parents, who are watching right now, and they said, no, you have to post this. You have to post this online. So I put it on my YouTube and my Instagram, and yeah, it was a bit daunting. It took me about, after I decided I was going to post, it took me about 2 weeks maybe to actually do it, and then I did, and then it was great, and I got a lot of positive feedback for it. So
yeah, I'm really glad you did post it. And so I was gonna say, tell us about the reaction. What have you done since this film coming out?
Yeah, I mean, so the reaction was great, just like a lot of really positive comments and messages, and even from my mum's friends from just, do you know what I mean, like a lot of people. And then actually I did mixtape 2 weeks ago with NYT, and I did a little follow-up poem I wrote to that about like how that made me feel, and telling people who I was, I guess, in that kind of way, which people can go watch on the NYT Facebook, which it was live there. So yeah, I wrote a couple more poems after that.
Yes, you can. People can definitely go watch your third poem for mixtape. I think we'll have it put in the YouTube chat if it isn't there already. We've got some really lovely comments coming in already. Like many rounds of applause, incredibly beautiful performances. This reminded me it's hard sometimes, but I love being trans because I love who I am. Thank you for that. So brilliant. And briefly, if we will, you've mentioned your parents and they are watching tonight. I think for members of the trans community especially, your family can be a really tricky topic. I think the fact that your parents are here watching, and not only that, but that they told you to post it and encourage that is really, really amazing. It seems like they've been really supportive.
Yeah, definitely. But that's not something that everyone has, so.
No, absolutely. But we should celebrate it when it's there. So well done, Nay's mum and dad. And Nay, thank you so much. I'm really thrilled that you showed that for us. So thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Yes. And that is it for our performances for the evening. If I can bring all of our performers back on screen for a moment, so that we can try and get them all spotlighted on screen. I don't know if this will work. There might be a bit of a tech nightmare for us all getting everyone back on. But I think it seems only right and fair that we have our performers and our writers back on to be celebrated. So hopefully we should be able to see everyone. I'll read our running order again with everyone to sort of give a little wave and a thank you. So first up with Martha, we had Georgie Beastie, Leonie Barnes-Wake and Lydia Webb.
Thank you.
Lots of virtual applause. Then we had Jasmine Armstrong with Be Proud. Yay!
Thank you.
Thanks, Jasmine. Ned Blackburn with The Maimed Man. And Law Wilson with Milkshake. Romy Iris Conroy with How to Fall in Love. Cora Frank and Chloe Chapper for Problems as a Panda. Nell Baisley with As Yet Untitled. So with On Sailor Moon or A Portrait of Two Women in Love. And then Nay Murphy with Identity. I'm thrilled you all submitted your work. Thank you so much for being a part of this tonight. It is 7 o'clock. That gives us half an hour now to move on to our panel discussion. So we say thank you to our performers. We'll see you in a little while. And if we could welcome onto screen our guests for this evening, Mr. Mark Gatiss. Hello.
Hello.
And then we also welcome Nathaniel Curtis. Nathaniel, are you with us? Are you here?
No. Yes.
Hello.
There we are. Hello.
Hello. Hi. I made it work. Yes.
How are you doing? Chloe, I can still see you on screen. And now there we go. There we go. All three of us. Zoom. How are you both? Thank you so much for being here.
Very well. I'm just renaming myself, which is something I have to do. I have to do every day because I can't make it work.
After a year into Zoom, you think we have everything down by now?
No,
not quite.
Absolutely not. No.
So a brief introduction to you both. Nathaniel, people may well have seen you as Ash in the frankly incredible It's a Sin on Channel 4. You starred opposite, written by Russell Davis. You had Ollie Alexander, Amari Douglas, Lydia West, Callum Scott Howells, to name just a few. And then, of course, Mr. Mark Gatiss, League of Gentlemen, Sherlock, Doctor Who, Dracula, The Favourite, The Father, Queers for BBC4 in 2017. Speaking of which, Mark, it is Oscar night and The Father is nominated for Best Picture. So thank you for being with us.
I can't stay long because I've got to be on a plane. They've called last minute.
I can only imagine. Thank you for giving your time with us. I'm so thrilled that you're both here. I think the best way to do this will be to ask you both some general questions about queer theatre representation, etc., and peppered in some more kind of specific things about different projects if that suits both of you. Yeah. Excellent. Well then, as a question first for the two of you, as succinctly as you can, Nathaniel and Mark, why is to you queer representation so important, particularly in theatre?
Nathaniel will go first.
Oh, I'm still thinking. I think you have more to say as well.
It's a nice, easy one to start off with.
Well, it's it's obvious thing to say, isn't it? As someone was pointing out earlier about seeing yourself on the screen when you're a kid, and equally valid is seeing yourself on the stage at any stage, but particularly when you're growing up. It's about not only saying, oh, that could be me, that's my life, but in terms of being on the stage or working behind the scenes, you're also looking at that could be me in terms of my career. You know, it's an obvious thing to say, but I mean, some of my first trips to the theatre as a kid, or joining my local youth theatre, the sheer fantastic excitement of being involved in a community like that, putting on a show and all that fantastic, just a little hint of the adult world it seemed to represent, you know, and then going on school trips and meeting actual actors. It was a world I just wanted to dive headlong into, you know. But equally, you look at that and think, well, maybe I could write for that. Maybe I could work as a stage manager. Maybe I could do all these things. You need to feel that these things are possible before you can even contemplate them as a career,
I think jumping off what Mark said, I think that seeing yourself represented is incredibly important. And I think that although, yes, when you see it on screen, you see, like, you can watch movies where there are big explosions and it's a massive CGI budget and all these different things, but there's something very different about being in the room and actually being able to, like, feel the person's emotions there. It's so powerful, and I love theatre for that. And I think that having someone who you can see a reflection, no matter how big or how small, of yourself in is incredibly important, especially as you are growing up and as you're trying to figure out who you are. I think that's also really important to know that you're not alone, that there's so many different people out there. And I think the theatre brings people together in such a specific and beautiful way. And I think that we all, as much as we all love Shakespeare, we don't want to see Shakespeare all the time. We want to see plays where things are challenged, where things are said, where you can feel more, you know.
Absolutely. So Mark, we'll talk about Queers, the collection of monologues that you put together for BBC4 back in 2017. Funnily enough, I have the book right here, and if anyone doesn't have it, they should go and purchase it. And in the introduction for this, you say something really stuck with me, which was, I've known I was gay since before I could really understand what such a thing meant. And I think that is something that when a lot of us look back as queer people, that we recognize and we feel that. And you go on to talk about characters that you saw or didn't see on TV. And we touched with So earlier on their Sailor Moon piece. Who was it for the two of you? Can you pinpoint specific characters or moments on TV or film or stage growing up where you went, I get this. I know what this is.
How long have you got?
About 10 minutes.
As you said, it's like there are so many, and but some of them are slightly opaque, aren't they? You know, I had crushes on certain actors, Stuart Damon in The Champions, in fact, Marine Boy, who was a very early anime cartoon. Everyone has a crush on cartoons, don't they? Can't really explain it. But equally, there are things which are slightly more disguised. You respond sometimes to the camp value of things without quite knowing what that is. And there are just certain touchstones, I think, aren't there? I mean, obviously, just you know immediately what makes you feel a bit funny. It's that funny thing. I mean, for me, the absolutely totemic one was, I probably said this in the introduction, but I used to watch horror films on a Friday night at Tyne Tees, where I'm from. And then suddenly they weren't on because it was the summer and they showed other films, but I would traditionally stay up late on my own to watch the horror film. And instead they showed Lindsay Anderson's film, If. And it just said, in the Northern Echo, it said 5 stars, don't miss. And in the opening minutes of this film, as everyone comes back to school, there's this incredibly beautiful boy with a big blonde fringe, and one of the prefects hits him over the shoulder and says, "Stop tarting, Phillips." And my heart just leapt out of my chest with excitement. And I spent the whole evening terrified that someone was going to come downstairs and catch me watching it. You know, that was the moment.
Nathaniel?
I think for me, it was probably like Prince Eric, but it's something, I mean, he's a classic, but I think that that's not something that I'd really figured out until many, many years later. But I'm thinking about, characters. I don't know. I like books, and I remember I read The Time Traveler's Wife as a teenager, and there was something about both Claire and about and Henry as well. I was like, what is this? And so I think then years later, that when I finally figured out what was going on, I think Henry de Tumble was a big one for me. But I think Prince Eric and also Simba. I don't know why, but there's something.
I'm glad you said it.
Like Simba is so fit. You know what? I don't feel weird about saying that anymore. So.
Nor should you. Absolutely not. No, I'm totally with you. I don't think mine was nearly as cultured as the two of you. I think I'm trying to pinpoint, and I think it it probably would have been looking back when I think
this is Potts.
Yes. Yes. I mean, I think we all aspire to being Potts. No, I think it was a boy called Aaron who was in S Club Juniors, and I think they were on one of the CBBC shows when I was a kid, and that was anyway. Nathaniel, let's talk about It's a Sin, because I think this is a moment of queer culture that will go down in history as being massively important to people of a whole generation. There's a lot of people on the performance tonight that are getting started in the industry, identifying as queer. For you, talk us through kind of the timeline, if you like, from that first hint of an audition to something through to the end, and when you got a sense of just how much of an impact that this show was going to have.
Okay, so I turned 30 in December, and I left drama school when I was 23, and I went 5 years with some auditions. I'd signed with an agent straight from drama school, and I went 5 years without landing a single role. And I don't think I was ready. I think that I'd left drama school thinking, I am very tall, I am very different, I'm gonna see kind of what parts there are for me. But I think that with the beauty of It's a Sin, which came in the summer of 2019, I was playing Romeo in a pub theatre version of Romeo and Juliet, which was so fun, and it was so funny and laid back and cool and beautiful to do. And then my agent called. I just got a new agent, and my agent had called and said, "Oh, Nathaniel, I've got this audition for you." And I'd been up for one of Russell's shows years before, and it was a much smaller role, but this was like one of the lead roles. And I went in, and I loved the script. You can't not love, with a piece of writing that magical, you can't not love it. And so I went in, read. And then left to go back to rehearsals, and was like, and I called my agent and I said, that was really great, I had a great time, didn't get it, but I had that feeling. And then he called me the next day and was like, so you've got a recall. And actually I was so confused, because I honestly thought I'd done a good enough job to make a good impression. But then when he said I had a recall, I just said, why? He was like, because they clearly liked you. And I think that there was that lack of confidence that I'd had in myself, because I was in the middle of doing my first professional role since leaving drama school, and went in a week later, and I did this recall with the then director and the producer and the casting director and everyone, and it was just so lovely, and I loved doing it so much, and the audition was so all-consuming. And then I'd started the run by this point. So I then went straight to a show. And I called my agent again, and I said, again, had a great time. It was really nice. They asked me to do it a whole lot of different ways, and I think I really showcased myself. But I don't know if I'm quite right for it. I don't know if they'll see me as being this, because I'm very clumsy, and I'm quite bumbly, and and Ash, who I played, is so cool. And I was like, that's not me. And again, thinking, but it was great. And then he called me back, and he, a couple of weeks later, was like, so you got the role? I was like, no. But I got it. And then we filmed it, and filming it was the time of my life. The actual joy on set is something that I can't even begin to describe it. We all crammed into Lydia West, who you know very well, Mark, and who is one of my favorite people in the world. She was in the cast with me, and we'd all cram into her trailer every morning and have a dance, and everyone, the show was filled with so much love, because it was a story that had to be handled with love. And it was just my favorite. Oh, it was amazing. And then we finished filming, and then COVID hit. And then the show was pushed back by 3 months. And but then when the show came out, I thought it would do well. I hoped it would do well, but it's wild. It's been absolutely insane. And it's just been so wonderful just knowing that the impact the show has had on people who were alive at that time, on people who didn't know anything about that time. It's been so, it's been beautiful, and it's been so humbling actually to have people reach out and say, you know, I was able to have a conversation with my parents about HIV and about I had a message from one person who was a family friend saying that he'd been able to speak to his mother about coming out as gay, which he'd done years before, but it's not a conversation that had gone particularly well, I think, but they've been able to sit down and talk about it. And actually, the fact that the show has got people talking about so many different things means so much to me as an actor. And I think that, especially for a community which I am so proud to be a part of, I think that the story it's told is not only informative, and I loved making that show. It was, and I'm so proud of it, but it's been so, it's just been lovely. And I think that that's probably the wrong word, but I say lovely as in there's just love. There's love out, like coming out at you everywhere. And it's been beautiful. That was a very long answer. I'm so sorry.
It's fantastic. It covered everything that I wanted it to cover. So thank you. And it is, you know, I can't imagine that there is anyone watching this that hasn't seen it. But if you haven't, for the love of God, go to 4AD or All 4, whatever it's called now, and watch It's a Sin. It's just incredible. Mark, so you've been working professionally since.
Why wasn't I in it? That's my big question. No, go on.
Say again.
Why wasn't I in it?
I was about to say, you know, Russell, come on, I can't believe it. It was missing one thing. As I say, you've been working professionally kind of since the mid-90s, and across then to now, we've seen projects like things like Queer as Folk, or Beautiful People in the BBC in the late 2000s. Now things like It's a Sin. As someone who's worked across the industry during that time, what do you think are the kind of the biggest changes that we've seen? Do you think there is a continuing change in attitudes to seeing queer people on TV and people that we know? Where do you think, as a writer as well, the next steps are that we continue to do that?
Well, I think, I mean, I can only echo what Nathan said about It's a Sin. I think it was I should start with that, really. I think it's been an amazing sort of seismic moment. And the truth is, as William Goldman said, nobody knows anything. And that show just landed in such an extraordinary way that you could never predict. I think this is a weird thing to say, but I found a lot of it quite nostalgic. Isn't that a strange thing to say about actually such a dark period? But it was filled with real passion and sadness and joy, so much joy. But what I love is, and this, to me, to answer your question, this is to me an ongoing thing, is anyone from any particular generation hates to lecture anyone younger about where we've come from. It's very difficult. And I think every generation, and no matter what your community is, there's a very big problem there with thinking you're just going to be one of those nodding old greybeards in the corner. Oh, it wasn't like that in my day. And the brilliant thing about that show is that it is connected with across the generations. It has really made people aware of what it was like and how different and how difficult it was. And I think that's a fantastic achievement. But also it speaks to where we are now in terms of it's also folly to imagine that everything is fine and everything is now, just because you can go on your phone and meet someone around the corner in 5 seconds flat, that you might have once had to, join a Lonely Hearts Club or whatever. It just means that people have just got different problems now, and as one of the participants was saying earlier about the amount of countries where it's still not only illegal but actually lethal to be gay, is so it brings you up short, when you just imagine that everything's rosy, and you look at the political situation around us and how quickly things can shift. That's genuinely frightening. So within the sort of broadcasting and theatrical world, there is always so much more work to be done. I think it's about being visible, and it's about being proud, and it's about being fearless, really. I think about telling those stories, and the sort of massive multiplicity of different stories is what has really encouraged me, I think. Two big examples. There used to be a time, for instance, not so long ago, 30 years, in EastEnders, then there was a gay storyline. That was the thing. That was the issue. That is no longer a thing. What you have now is gay people who have issues, in order to make the soap storyline. But that is actually a huge achievement. If you look at a show like everybody's talking about Jamie, it is never about the fact that he's gay. It's about the fact that he wants to go to his prom in a dress and be a drag queen. These may sound like small steps, but that's actually a huge leap, really, I think.
Yeah, I'm really glad you said that. It hadn't occurred to me in that kind of way, that it doesn't always, sometimes we have to tackle the big problems, and that's really important, but the smaller steps are almost the ones that we don't notice, and that's precisely why they work. We'll go to some questions from our performers in just a second, but one more question for the two of you before we do. Two questions. One, what would be your top tips for our performers and for NYT members generally who can watch this live and on demand for getting started in the industry, or for those older members keeping going, and how to kind of own and represent your own identity in the room? And then finally, any top queer performances or writers or shows or plays or actors that you're particularly enjoying at the moment that everyone should go and look up. Nathaniel first, by all means.
I think my tips would be, nobody can take away from you who you are, how far you've come, how hard you've had to work, how much you've had to give up or change, how much you've put into yourself, I think should never be forgotten. And also look after yourself. You are your instrument. And I hate using that word so much, but you are the person that is in the room. They want to see what you can do. They don't want to see what the version that you think they want to see of you can do. When you are in the room, nobody wants you to fail. That's one thing that I've learned. And I think that it's not even about being true to yourself. You are yourself. You have to look after you, because you're the one that gets you through it. You spend every second of every day with you. And I drive myself insane sometimes, but I have to remember and remind myself that I am all I've got. I am the best I've got. And going to your friends and going to your loved ones for support is so important, but you've got to know how to chill out. You've got to know how to be able to manage you. I think that might not make much sense. It makes more sense in my head, but look after yourself, I think, is just, especially one thing we've learned from this year. Look after yourself. Yeah. And performances. Oh, enjoying the moment. I love Pose. I didn't watch Pose, and then everyone was talking about it when I was filming, and then I was like, okay, well, I'll just check it out. Insane. It's beautiful, and you've got so many, like I May Destroy You, Veneno, these incredible shows out there. I think educating yourself on other people's experiences is incredibly important as an actor. But I think that yeah, there's so much out there at the moment, and it's so amazing to see, and it makes me so proud. And that's me done.
Thank you, Mark.
I'm just going to turn the oven off. 1 second.
The joy of doing this from home, the magic of.
I can just smell
very important.
something a
Very
bit
important.
burning. Yeah. My advice is I should have gone while you were talking, but it was very interesting. Well, you're absolutely right. Self-care is a huge thing. The biggest recurring problem, I think, it's an incredibly, as someone once said, possibly in the League of Gentlemen, it's a shit business. It's very tough, and you have to develop a very tough hide, really, to continue. And you know, nobody owes you a living. That's an awful thing to realize, but it's true. But it's such a good piece of advice to think when you go into an audition, people want you to be the one. They really do, because they want to go home. They've been sitting there all day themselves. And if you can try and build your own self-confidence, I know that sounds like an easy thing to say, but if you can really believe in yourself and what you've got to offer, as Nathaniel says, as a special person, you're not, you know, it's not just identity. Everybody comes in the door is different. I think it's just you have to bear in mind that it's such a tough business, and this has been such a tough year, and nobody has any idea what we're going to emerge into. That's the truth. It's true. It's just an unknown new landscape. Except we're all doing more self-tapes and Zoom auditions. I think that's definitely true. And who I tell you what I love is Kieran Hodgson, who you may have seen on YouTube, who does the most brilliant, oh God, he's so funny. And he does these brilliant potted versions of like The Crown or The Undoing. And he's really great, I think. He's my favorite.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Cool. Gentlemen, this is going very, very, frankly, it's going very, very well. You're both giving us excellent things. So we may, if it's all right, run over by about 5 minutes to about 35
I have to
past.
rush out again and check my tagine.
So you have to make your dinner. I understand this.
This is how rare this is. I never cook. This could go very, that's why I'm very flushed. This could go very wrong.
Okay, fingers crossed. We'll keep us updated. We've had questions from the performers come in, and I'll invite them to come on and ask their questions. If they don't want to, that's fine. I can ask it. But first question was from Romy. Romy, if you wanted to turn your camera on, I'm aware that your voice is a little bit sore.
Yeah, hi. It's a question for both of you guys. I'm just like massive fan of both of you. Like, this is just a dream come true. I'm literally sitting here on my Instagram story like, oh my God. But the question was, when did you know it was time to like give up the day job and commit to pursuing your dreams full time?
Well, I still work in a bank. I to be honest, this may sound facetious, but I can't really do anything else, and so this doesn't mean it would necessarily have worked, but I just sort of stuck at it because I was so scared of getting any other kind of employment, and I did do, you know, bits and pieces, but I spent a long time on the dole, and you know, just I remember when I first emerged. I did my first TV job in 1991, and then I got another one straight away, and I thought, here we go. And then I didn't work for 3 years. That's how it goes. So persistence is key.
I am going to be completely honest. I was working in education. I was a teaching assistant, and I left in January of this year. I was working up. I obviously couldn't work for the majority of last year, but I loved working in education. I loved my day job. But like Mark said, I am absolutely rubbish at pretty much everything else. He didn't say it that way. That's how I'm saying it. But it was who I am. It's what I wanted to do. And it's something that I pushed and pushed and pushed. And I just stuck at it. But I had a day job that I loved doing. It was hard work, yes. But I worked until I think it was 2 weeks or 3 weeks before the show came out. I was still working my day job, but then obviously I was working in a school. You can't work in a school when you're about to get your bum out on TV. So, you know, I mean, it's there it is. That's my advice. Find a day job you love as well.
Yeah.
There's no shame in having a great day job at all. One of my best friend works on a farm and he loves it.
Also creatively, you're fueling your imagination and your life. You're meeting people or interacting with people. If you are just sort of, obsessing about acting and then not acting, you've got nothing to put into the pot, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, guys.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Romy. Nell, you had quite a good question for both, if you wanted to come and say hello.
Hello.
Hello. I'm so
Hello.
great to speak to you both. So my question is, did you have to make the decision to be an openly queer actor? And when you did, was that something that was particularly challenging?
No, for me, no, I didn't. I was never in. I never thought about it. That's true. And not in an overtly political way. I had no interest in making myself unhappy by pretending to be something I wasn't. I have met actors over the years, even up until recently, who have been, persuaded or advised by their representatives to not come out. But for me, it was never an issue. I'd rather be a happy puff than a working actor, to be honest.
Absolutely.
I'm actually completely the same. I was never really in, and also when It's a Sin came out, I was asked how I wanted to be represented. I was never asked, "Oh, do you want to be out? Do you want?" They said, "What's the best word to describe your sexuality?" So I said, "Well, I'm queer." And I'm very lucky that my agent, my publicist, absolutely my entire team they have no interest in representing someone who is not true to themselves, because these people who are so sadly persuaded to stay in the closet or to be untrue to themselves end up so sad, and that's devastating. And no, absolutely, I'd rather not be seen for a big role because they think that he can't play straight, when actually I absolutely can, because I'm an actor. And I'd rather not be seen for that role, because that's not something I want to be a part of. But it's also tough. It's so difficult, especially for young actors, because you feel like you have to mold yourself into what people want of you. You don't. I just want to say that now. You don't. And if you are being told that you do, you are with the wrong people.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm now feeling really proud, oh yes. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Nell. We'll do two final questions, and then I will let you go and enjoy your evenings, prepare for Oscars, cook dinner, that sort of thing. Lydia, would you like to ask your question for Mark?
Hello. Good evening. I feel like it's kind of a pattern, especially in comedy writing. Like there may have been a place for it before, but I feel like now, how do you think we can go ahead in comedy writing, steering away from queer characters, their sexuality or gender kind of being the butt of the joke, and just trying to make sure that we're keeping them they're just queer, and it's not necessarily, it doesn't need to be a joke anymore.
It's a big problem. It's a big issue, really, that, because it's an ongoing conversation of what is the root of comedy. As Dame Edna once said, God gave me a great gift, which was to laugh at the misfortunes of others. It's still funny, of course it is, because that's the root of it, is watching other people fall over. The truth, I think, is that what you want to do is, as you say, is make sure the punchline is not the fact that someone is gay. In a way, you can watch an awful lot of, particularly of 70s sitcoms, where that's kind of what it is. It's like there's nothing else beside it. But it's like the rest of drama, the rest of entertainment, where you're trying to present much more rounded people. So just as you want a character who is a queer character to be allowed to be a bad person, so that they're not shouldering the burden of sainthood on behalf of the entire community. Equally, you want a funny queer character to be funny for different kinds of reasons, rather than just being the butt of the joke in the end. But it's really interesting. I mean, for instance, I was watching a documentary recently about Larry Grayson, the great 70s game show host and drag act and comedian. Very, very, very funny man. And it was a really tender, touching documentary. And I was talking to a friend of mine who was very active in gay activism in the 70s. And he said, but I can only think of him as the enemy. And that was because to him, being in his 30s, in the 70s, people like Larry Grayson represented everything they didn't want to be. And yet to me as a kid growing up, I just loved him because he was funny. It's about shades of experience, I think. And I mean, that intrigues me about the future, is that obviously one day people will look back at now and have all kinds of problems with some of the things that we're producing now or we're all experiencing now. It's an ongoing debate, I think.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Lydia. And final question, nice easy one. We'll go to Leonie. Hello, you are on mute.
That was awkward.
Hello.
So just a quick little question. I don't want to keep you hungry. So it was basically, did you want to be anything else before going to acting? Say like to be a vet or something like that? Or was it just you knew from the get-go?
Nathaniel?
No. Honestly, I think when I was 3, I wanted to be a dinosaur. I think that's kind of...
I
actually do. But so I come from my family, my sisters, I have 2 sisters, they're both incredibly academic, and I think that there was an expectation that myself as the youngest and the only son was going to go and do something at university. And so I planned on doing classics actually at university, because I love mythology and I love classics and everything about it. But when push came to shove, it wasn't, why do I say that phrase so often? Sorry. But like, that wasn't what I wanted. It was something that I had to really think about, and no, acting was my thing. Even when I was struggling, even when I wasn't landing any roles, when I was crying on my friends' sofas, when I was searching for something to give me like just a little tiny flame of hope, I just had to remind myself, this is what I want. I want to be an actor. Also, one thing, like, if you want to be famous, don't be an actor. I think that's the one piece of advice from drama school which I take away, and out of everything. If you don't want to be famous, don't be an actor. If you want to be an actor, you should want to be an actor because you want to be able to tell these stories. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's my yeah. So basically, no.
There we go. Lovely, thank you.
Acting and writing is all I really wanted to do. I did, weirdly, because you want to be a dinosaur, I did want to be a paleontologist. But
yes!
I'm far too dim. I could have found Nathaniel sort of buried in Utah somewhere.
Yeah.
But I was too dim. So no, that's all I ever really wanted to do. I read a really good thing the other day, Mads Mikkelsen interview, where he said it was about ambition, and he said, I just try to do each job to the best of my ability. And actually what that becomes then is a really good, interesting career. I think that's you're absolutely right. If you're trying to reach over there from the beginning, then you're just going to fall and be disappointed. But if you try and make each separate job as good as you can and as enjoyable as you can, then it pieces together into a life, really.
Lovely. Well, thank you. Enjoy your tagine.
Thank you.
Delicious. What a way to end. Nathaniel, Mark, thank you so much for giving up your time and coming to say hello.
Pleasure. Lovely to meet you, Nathaniel.
An honour. Yeah, and you too, Mark. I'm such a fan.
He's actually in the next room. We'll be watching the Oscars together.
We're going to have a tagine together. So.
I'll pop around in a minute. Save some for me. I can't wait to see you both in person again properly soon. Give you both a lovely hug and all those things. See you soon. Thank you. No, for those of you watching on YouTube, that's it. We are done. Thank you for spending your time with us this evening. And you can watch this back, obviously, on the YouTube channel. And to find out more about NYT, go to nyt.org.uk.